Hey, so in front of me I have the creation from my video on building tools. And as you may remember, this kind of looks like a basic piano, but there's some issues with it right now. So, for example, when you hit a key, no sound comes out. And the reason this happens is that bitKlavier doesn't yet know what to do with a MIDI message. So it receives a message so that you hit a key, but it doesn't know that you want sound to come out. And the way that we deal with this is with the Keymap, which is this preparation down here. So in general, you can open up a preparation in one of two ways in bitKlavier. You can either right click on it, which on Mac is holding Control and clicking, or tapping with two fingers on the trackpad, and then select Edit. And then you can exit out of this menu with the red X up here. The other way you can open up a preparation is just by double clicking. And there's also another way to close it, which is with the escape key. But okay, so let's take a look at these settings. So it's kind of simple, actually. All you need to do is just select which keys you want from this keyboard to make sound. So, you can just click, and it'll select them. You can then deselect a key by clicking on it again. And now you'll notice that the keys I have selected, these make sound. However, the other ones don't. Okay, so another way that you can select keys is with this Edit All button. You can just simply type in whichever MIDI values you want for the keys. So for example, if I do 60, 64, 67, I get a C major triad centered on middle C. Lovely. Okay, and I can clear my selections with this clear button. Okay. One more fun thing you can do is with MIDI edit, you can use a MIDI device, for example, to choose which keys you would like to be selected. Okay, I'm going to clear that. So this is a little tedious. If you want it to work like the basic piano, then all the keys have to be selected. So there's a pretty fast way to do this, which involves using these two menus right here. So this first one, you want to have select chosen, because we want to select all the keys rather than deselect them. And then under this menu, keys all. And there you go. The whole thing is selected. So now at this point, you can exit out and, use this piano like you normally would. All right, so at this point, the basic piano is pretty much ready to go. Feel free to mess around, have fun. But in the rest of this video, I want to take another look at the Keymap in a little more depth. So let's open it back up. And I want to try and make a more involved key mapping of Messiaen's third mode. So I'm going to make a new key mapping up here, Action New. And then kind of the first thing to notice is that, there are a lot of options under keys. So, there are some diminished scales and other scales and chords, just kind of a random one. You can see what it looks like. But none of the available options are Messiaen's third mode. So I kind of have to make this in a sort of roundabout way. And I can do this by selecting all keys, then deselecting all D flats, all Fs, and all As. And this gives me, this particular transposition of Messiaen's third mode. Yeah, and here's kind of glissando. It's a little hard to hear, but I mean, pretty much all you can do is just play notes that are within this particular scale. Okay, so what else can you do in Keymap? Well, one important feature to know is that after you make a key mapping you like, you can choose an appropriate name for it. So, like so. Whoops. You can also make duplicates of key mappings, and then change something. And you can delete one that you don't like. I'm actually not going to hit this because there's a known bug with the delete button right now that hopefully will be fixed soon. But you can always go back to previous key mappings with this menu. So for example, here's the regular basic piano mapping, and here's our third mode. All right, so one more thing that's good to know is that you can export and import key mappings. So for example, maybe I want to export this one and send it to a friend or something. And now, as you may remember, if you look in the directory system, so applications, and then navigate to bitKlavier, preparations, and Keymap, you'll now see some XML files, and one is the one that we just made, Messiaen's third mode. You can, do whatever you want with this XML file. Send it to a friend, maybe. I don't know. And then the way importing works is, maybe select a key mapping or make a new one. And then from the import menu, you can choose any XML file that is in that folder we just took a look at. So maybe Messiaen mode 6, which I've done earlier, and it gets you right to it. And that's pretty much it. So you might be wondering, like, why even, bother with the export and import? It really doesn't take that long to do, a key mapping. And I think the answer is that, maybe you don't want to do it. Maybe you never need to export or import a key mapping. But this becomes important because these are kind of actions that you can perform on any preparation. So ones that, are a lot more complicated, maybe, someone else has changed a lot of the settings, and made a really specific sound. If they then send that to you, you can export it and import it in the same way that you would with a key map, but, maybe with a nostalgic or synchronic or some other preparation. So it's kind of just good to know how to do that. Okay, last thing under this menu is the reset button. This really is not necessary for you to know yet, but it kind of works in conjunction with modifications. If you just hit reset as it is, this will clear all your selections. Okay, so moving right along. Actually, I'm going to switch back to the full mapping. I've already discussed this a little bit, but select MIDI inputs up here just allows you to choose which kind of available input sources will work with this key map. So right now I have it selected such that this keyboard down here, the on-screen keyboard will work, or my default MIDI device will work. Okay, last thing here, invert note on off. This is kind of a just little fun thing to play around with. It kind of flips when the computer sends like note off and note on signals. So I'm just going to check that box and then play a little bit to kind of give you a sense. So whenever I have notes held down, it shuts off all sound. And then when I release them, it plays the notes. So you can kind of get these super cool, like, choppy textures, that you probably wouldn't be able to get with a normal piano. Yeah, that's the key map.